Started here, we'll give Coach the opportunity to opening statement, then we'll open it up for questions. Go ahead, Coach.
Thanks, AC. Well, I guess I'll start off like the other 126 other coaches in the country that'll say how excited they are about this class. No, this is a class that I think has addresses our needs across the board. I think we have a plan of how we want to do things. We've lost some very, very talented players offensively this year, and we've got to replace those. We've had a depth issue last year on defense. I think the first attempt for us this year was to address those needs from an offensive line standpoint, and our defensive front seven, really the complete defense. And we were able to really go out, our coaches, to do a great job of evaluation, number one, and then be able to establish relationships with those guys and really earn early commitments and hang on to them. I think for the second year in a row, a year ago we signed 32 and we lost one of them. Only one of them didn't come into school at the time, and we lost him to the Minnesota Twins for $5 million. So everyone else, for the first time in my 26 years of coaching, out of those 32, 31, not only did we sign them, they were here and didn't go other schools, didn't have to go to junior college. They were academically eligible qualifiers and were good players. So a year ago, you look at the transition of the roster, you've got 85 scholarship players. That's over a third of your team. Last year were new. This year, our numbers are down, which says a couple things. Number one, that we don't have a lot of attrition, even with a couple guys turning pro early. And so the quality of your class as the numbers go down, to be ranked where we are, I think that speaks volumes. If you look at any of the stuff that's on TV right now in the top 10, 20 teams in the country recruiting, I think our numbers are drastically lower than the rest of those people. Some people signing up to 36 folks. And what that tells you is the quality of the guys and the evaluation of our coaches was this year at a high level. So across the board, we branched out a little bit, probably for the first time since we've been here. Going out of state, obviously, to Arizona, Louisiana, some junior college situations, Pennsylvania, a number of other states that we probably hadn't been in before. But I think that speaks to our brand expanding east and west, and television exposure over the last couple of years. So, these guys are, again, which is kind of a trend, I think, now more than ever. Many of these guys that were committed early began to communicate with each other and helped recruit each other and help stay together. And so they really kind of created their own class. So, the early commitment phase is something that a lot of people have different opinions about. It works for us, and just like I said last year, don't panic too soon. We just got to hang on to them. And I walked in the building this morning. ESPN was here 6 o'clock or so this morning, and they said, what was the goal? The goal was to have the guys that we had committed coming in the door this morning all signed today, and that's what happened. Anything other than that would have been icing on the cake, in my opinion. And we're very, very pleased with this class.
All right, questions right down front.
Kevin, what do you think it says about your program and where you guys are, the perception when you're able to get a top-ranked player disposition from Arizona or from Louisiana, like Kyle Allen and Speedy Noel?
Well, I think, I was talking about that today. It's not one thing. There are a lot of factors that are involved in that. And I think, right now we've got a lot of momentum. I think that, our administration has really supported this program in an unbelievable way, and I think recruits see that, from the stadium to our weight room to the nutrition center to what's going on to the renovations in this building. There's just a tremendous amount of support, and so from a facilities aspect, it's appealing. We play an exciting brand of football. We're on television just about every week. Moving to the SEC it has given us another stage and has really expanded our footprint. People think about it expanding east because of where we are and who we play against. I know for a fact with Quaylen and Kyle Allen that us being the furthest west team in the SEC has also given us an appeal that way. So there are a number of factors that have brought us to this point, and it really is not one thing. I think it's a combination of a lot of things while you're trying to increase your brand, increase your profile, and increase where your program is nationally and to get there. And I think what people are seeing and what prospects are seeing is the trend of where we are and where we can be, and based on the commitment from the university to this program and the type of competitive games that we're in. And I've said it in a lot of people's homes. We're a program that's trying to go from 8, 9, 10, 11 wins to 12, 13, 14 wins, and talent makes a huge difference in that. And you look at the teams that are at that level. There's no coincidence that Florida State's where they are. They've had top 5 recruiting classes, number 1 classes over the last 4 years. You can see that on the field when they play. Auburn's coming off of it's 4 years removed from a national championship class. So, talent to get to that level, what we have to do is increase our depth, obviously, and then increase our talent level. And fortunately, we're in a situation here where we have the resources and administration that is providing us with the type of facilities that we need to recruit and develop players, and I think they see that.
Go far right.
Coach, about a quarter of your class is already here on campus, getting ready to go through drills and spring ball and everything. How big was that to get that many guys, 6 guys on campus this spring?
Well, it's big. We started that last year. I think we had, I don't know what, we had 8 maybe last year, at least. When you guys were trying to figure out how everybody was accusing me of oversigning. Shame on you guys. Like we didn't know what we were doing. But that's more of a trend now than it used to be. Some guys are done with high school. They're ready to move on. This recruiting process has changed a lot, and it depends on where you are in the country. Early commitment, by the time, and you guys have seen the numbers right now with us with 2015. But the early commitment phase has changed everything because of the fact that guys are just not committing. They're coming to campus, they're getting to know you as sophomores and juniors, making decisions, traveling around, getting to see places, and they know where they want to go to school. And when they're done with their senior year, they're ready to move on, some of them. And whether I think it works for some guys and some guys, it doesn't. But you take our junior college mid-year guys, they understand, it was important for us to get the offensive line junior college guys in here at mid-year. because it's hard to play at that position coming in the fall. In the summer, just going through it. But now you've got the spring and spring football practice, conditioning, and really 2 sets of practices to get a couple of those guys ready to go, which we're going to need to do. I think obviously Kyle graduating early, making a statement that he wants to compete for the starting quarterback role, and which gives him spring football and fall camp, and then Speedy also. And so those guys made a decision to do that a while ago during the recruiting process, and that didn't matter where they were going to go to school. They had that mindset of wherever they were going to go, they were going to go somewhere early and be there to compete to play. So, yeah, it helps. It helps a lot, and you know, I think you're going to see more and more of that.
Down front here.
What was your first impression of Myles Garrett?
As a football player?
Yes.
Really good. I was even more impressed when I went to watch him play basketball about 2 weeks ago. And I was on his visit. It's kind of interesting because his sister helped us recruit him. And she's already here. For y'all who don't know, Bria is here with our track program. So I bugged her a lot and bugged his parents a lot. And we had everybody but him for a long time. And every time he'd get close to saying he was going to come to school here, he would get really quiet and just drop his head. And I wouldn't push him because I didn't want to scare him away. But I went to see him play basketball. After he committed, I said, well, you can't hoop. You don't know what you're doing. You're a D lineman. You know, you don't see many D linemen. And so I went to the game, and, you know, he's out there running around and like a deer. I mean, he's just huge. And he catches the ball off the rim. It comes down the middle, and this guy's just draped over him, goes straight up. And then he turned and he ran down the court and he pointed at me in the stands. I said, I really like this guy. I'm a fan. So, you know, he's explosive. He's right at 260 now. You know, when he was on his visit, you know, he was 258 or so. And he took off his shirt after the game, and he, like I said, he looks like he hit a Batman costume. You know, the fake, it's put together like crazy. So he's, you know, there's a reason why he's ranked where he is, and he's a guy that's got tremendous upside and what we need, you know, as an edge threat. And he's probably physically mature enough that he can, you know, we'll see where he is with playing the run, but he's real explosive off the edge. And anybody who watched that All-Star game, playing against the other best players in the country, they were having a hard time blocking him. So, you know, that's all encouraging for us.
Down front here. You got it.
Coach, I was wondering if you would describe Alaka and Walker, your linebackers that you picked up today.
You know, they're kind of interesting. You know, they run really well, which is one thing that we really need. Josh probably a little bit different player than Alaka. Alaka's a little bit more rangy, longer. Obviously, you know, had a lot of different options in high school. Gonna be a bigger guy. Has the height and the range to maybe put on maybe 20 more pounds and still be able to move around really well. Josh has got real speed and quickness. A little shorter guy, but has got great punch. Plays with great effort. Really a smart football player too. Tough guy. So, you know, they're gonna have their opportunities come in here and help us. I mean, they, you know, linebacker. We signed a bunch of guys last year. The good news. That's the good news. The bad news is we had to play a bunch of them last year as freshmen. Just about every one of them, some kind of way, whether it was special teams or starting. You know, between even, you know, Jordan Mastergiovanni started the bowl game, played every snap. and Sean Washington, all those guys that played, even with Darian Claiborne being out that last game. So just about all those linebackers that we signed last year, besides Reggie Chavis, played. I think the wild card too is the transfer of people keep forgetting about A.J. Hilliard, who was a highly recruited kid from Klein Oak that went to TCU and then transferred back. He will be eligible now. So the addition of the young guys, A.J., who might as well be counted as a recruit, even though he's been here a year now, he's eligible. You've got 3 new linebackers eligible this year with those guys to give us some depth. And do you want to play them all? Probably. You guys know me. I don't care. The best guys play. And I was talking to another coach the other day. He goes, things have changed in the last really 6-7 years. He said, watch the draft in a couple months and see how many fifth-year seniors get drafted in the first 2 rounds. So, that struck me, and that's a pretty prominent coach who told me that. And I said, I hadn't thought about that, but it makes a lot of sense to me.
We'll go to the back. John?
Coach, when you look at your class overall, how pleased are you with the balance on paper looking? It looks like 11 offensive and 11 defensive guys. Looks
like we planned that, huh? I should take credit for that. No, like I said, we set out to address our needs, and we have a number set by position, which is a wish list of things that we want to do, and then that fluctuates, with when you have juniors that leave early. That can change your numbers at the top end, and then where those go. Obviously, you want to replace those numbers first. Fortunately, in our situation, the anticipation, we had to sign. We're going to sign another quarterback this year anyway, and Kyle Allen was coming whether Johnny was coming back or not, which I think that says something. His commitment was before that, which says something about Kyle Allen. Maybe the change later on was with Mike, and that may have added another scholarship along the way. So we felt good about where we were with our receiver situation, mainly because of last year's class. Ricky is being hurt early will probably be a medical redshirt because he was hurt before in the first or second game. And didn't play after that, so he's probably going to have 4 more years. And so, you add that to the rest of this group, so your scholarship numbers change. Everybody knows where we are right now. We need help on defense, and the ability to jump in there and get a real solid inside defensive tackle who's here at mid-year and Zay. And Myles Garrett, the #1 defensive end in the country, and that's only going to help us because, we need help up front. And then, Jarrett Johnson's a fabulous pass rusher. Those kinds of guys up front, we'll see where they fit in, where they blend in. But, the emphasis obviously was on defense and offensive line.
We'll go to the back there, Luke.
Coach, you talked about the sophomores and juniors making decisions early, how many fifth-year seniors are going to the draft. How do you and your staff go about how young you're going to start targeting a guy, and also talk about the pressure that they do feel early on, to produce? I'm not we don't go past 2 years. So, there's a lot of things that happen that can happen past that. So we really don't go past, as a junior, when we evaluate juniors or rising sophomores, the sophomores to get an offer need to be at a talent level or size level that we think is compatible to being able to play here at that point. And that sounds scary when you're talking about a guy 14, 15 years old. So that limits our offers in that pool. But believe me, there are guys out there that are 14 and 15 years old that you walk in the building and you're like, wow, this is unbelievable. And everybody can see that, you know, but we spend a lot of time in trying to build our relationships with juniors. I think that has paid off. You know, we've already had 3 weeks ago, had our first junior day. Had several commitments off of that. We'll have another one here in another couple weeks, the second wave of juniors. So, you know, the calendar has really moved up, and you know, that's why signing day for a lot of people, for us, is not as dramatic as it used to be. If we're doing our job like we've done the last couple years, the job today is to hang on to what you've had for the last year, and not let people jump in there and get everything flipped around. So, you know, I don't know that. I think that what's changed is the relationship with kids, and that's why your location becomes important. The ability, as the rules have changed, for you to be able to go out, particularly head coaches, to be out one time to see a guy, and the number of visitations for our assistant coaches to get to see guys to leave campus, your location becomes important for prospects to be able to get on your campus and see what you're all about, and for you to talk to their families. And so, you know, we've had great luck with establishing those relationships with families, with high school coaches who come here, and our location has really helped that, being where we are in proximity to Dallas, San Antonio, Houston, Louisiana. And I think, you know, the recruiting reflects that, because that's where the majority of our players have come from.
Go far right, Gabe, and then Scott right next to him.
Kevin, as the day goes along, you're getting a little bit of love from this decision to go ahead and honor the scholarship to Cedric Collins, even though he's injured and can't play. Can you take us through that, your philosophy behind it, and a little reporter's question, but I assume he'll count toward the 25 and the 85, and then tell us a little bit about how he'll still help your program even though he can't play.
Well, you know, I guess that article came out today, the Dallas Morning News. You know, Ced was a guy at Skyline High School who committed to us early, and with that commitment, you know, he ended up developing a condition that wouldn't allow him to play, and really a spinal issue that became dangerous for him, and the possibility of paralyzation with the hit or anything, something worse than that. So his family was really concerned at that point, and Coach Samples, I talked to him about. Coach Samples was concerned about him playing ever again, and I said, you know, I'm concerned about him ever playing again. You know, Mike Richardson here. Everybody knows the story from last year. We're very lucky that you know, he had a broken vertebra. I don't know which 4 or 5, whatever they call it, and you know, we had to make a decision because I wasn't comfortable with him playing ever again either. And in this situation, same deal, but you know, commitment is a two-way street. And there have been a number of instances where guys have had stuff pulled on them. His family believed in us, you know, early in his career, and I just thought it was important that we showed them the same type of commitment that they showed us from the beginning when, you know, he was one of our early guys. And that family, you know, when you bring them in, they're scared to death. You know, they really were looking forward to not only him playing football, but most of all getting an education from Texas A&M. And I thought it was important to put that family at ease and just say, hey, look, whatever happens, Ced's going to be with us, and he's going to go to school here, and you know, that's just kind of how we do that. You know, your commitment here, if we've offered you a scholarship, injury should not have anything to do with whether or not you're going to be able to come here and either play football or be on scholarship. So, you know, that's just kind of how we believe to do things, and I think that's what's right, and hopefully, you know,
you don't know. Sometimes that gets out, sometimes it doesn't. But I think it says a lot about the way we do things here. And I know that family's appreciative. I know Coach Samples is appreciative. But commitment's a two-way street. I'll just put it that way.
We'll go down front here, Brent.
I know it's hard to tell, but how do you feel a guy like Nick Harvey can help in your program, maybe right away?
I don't know. He's a explosive player, two-way player. He's versatile in the fact that he's not a tall guy, but he's got long arms. He can play corner or safety. I think the key for us is to get him in the right position as a young guy and get him repped and see where he can go. He can do a number of things. He's a return guy. But the key is with these young guys is to get them in the right position and to get them enough practice at that position and then see where it is. I don't know right now. He probably will have a little bit of an advantage after we go through spring ball with a new secondary coach to see where we are with our guys, and then we'll plug him in here in June and see where he is. He's already said to me he wants to play both ways. So I said, listen, let's worry about one way at first, and then we'll see what we can do. So he's a talented guy, and we'll get him going.
Far right here, Aubrey.
I know recruiting is a full staff effort, and you guys have had success in multiple position groups, but specifically, how has Terry Price been able to, in back-to-back classes, really build depth at defensive line? What has he done to get?
Well, I think he does a great job of building relationships. I think he's done a fabulous job with guys on the phone. We have guys. Our guys recruit by area and by position, both. And I think, our basic process is basically our assistant coaches have an area that they recruit, and they show the film to the position coaches, and then we get the position coaches involved in recruiting. I think that's imperative, that the prospect has a relationship with who is going to coach him. And so, there are a lot of team efforts. I did a lot of home visits with the position coach and the area coach, and some people say that's a little bit too much, but I think that the prospect feels at ease with both those guys. And Terry, we've got guys all over the country that we're going to see, and just like a number of these positions, the guys are flying all over the place this year, just trying to get it all done the last couple of weeks. But without a doubt, he's really built rapport with these guys, and he's been in this league for a long time, and his experience shows.
Right here, Cease.
Kevin, last year you signed a great class, and you mentioned guys in the SEC West had signed better classes, longer times. Now you have another good class. You mentioned Florida State, others. How much closer are you now? You feel you're there? Do you need another one or two classes? How's that?
I don't know that any coach ever feels they're there unless you're holding that ball up. I think probably Jimbo feels like he's there. So before the season, he probably didn't. You've got to put it all together. And until they play, we get them all here. On paper, it looks good, but until they play, who knows? And we got to get them all in the right places. Obviously, this is a place to start, based on what you've seen in college football over the last, really, since in the BCS era. Recruiting has correlated to really championships. And, the combination of coaching and recruiting is you look at the rankings of these classes, whether we want to admit it as coaches or not, and give people credit. Those teams have been very, very strong nationally in the rankings. So, you would think that over the course of time, you have to put, it can't be one or two. You've got to put these things together. And hopefully we'll be able to continue that way. And it's just like I said, I came down here last year, what I say, we were 9th or 11th or whatever it was. Well, this year I just left and I saw something, we're 4th. And we started at the 2nd. We didn't do anything today, but we're 4th. We signed the guys that we were supposed to sign. We lost 2 spots. And we're 3rd in our own division, not our league, our division. So are we gaining ground? I hope so. But, we're doing the best we can right now. And like I said, we're pleased with where we are. And I think the key is that when you're in that area, you've got to, just like playing in this league, you've got to scratch and claw to stay up in that area to really, really be competitive, year in and year out.
Go Rusty to the back, and then Kate.
Coach, you look at these mock drafts, or we look at these mock drafts, and you possibly have 3 guys in the top 10 of the NFL draft. How much does it help to recruit 18-year-olds when you're putting guys in the NFL like you have been the last couple of years?
Well, it helps, but you got to remember who we're recruiting against. The 2 people I just talked about, one program's lost 19 underclassmen in 2 years, all right? And they just passed us by today in recruiting. So on that board, and the other programs lost a number of number 1 picks. So, it's all relative. It helps us, yes, to be in that category. But, we don't stand alone in this league when you're talking about that type of talent. And what we have to do, what we need to do is, when you start talking about that year in and year out, now you're talking about something. Because those programs have done that year in and year out over the last 6, 7, 8 years. And so, in order to be strong like that, we've got to be able to do that over time, not just once in a while. And, is that a good thing? Yes, to be in that company. But for us to be where we want to be, that needs to be a topic of conversation, every other year or every year, and now you're talking about a program instead of just a couple teams. Does that make sense?
We'll go to the far back, Mike, and then down to Kate.
Coach,
Kate.
after the
I'm sorry, go ahead, Mike.
Coach, after the film room segment after the BCS National Championship game, a lot of people were favorable towards you, saying, that's a coach I would like to, run my player. A lot of families.
I thought you were going to say, you don't want me to coach, they want me to do that.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that unless I have to. So, go ahead.
One, what was the experience like for you in that? And also, do you think things like that with national media exposure has definitely helped out with recruiting?
No, it's, anytime you're involved in something like that, it's great exposure for our university, and as long as you don't screw it up. So, it can go either way. That's live television. I say that all the time. I'm a little bit leery of it, but it's hard to pass up that kind of exposure for your program and for your university. I don't know how many people watched it, but my wife couldn't even find it. It was on something on ESPN News. So my kids were watching the real game at the time, and it gives us exposure. It gives us a chance to another chance to really be out in front of people and tell our story. And the only reason we do that is really to get the type of exposure that we want for the program. It's another way to advertise our program.
Go here, Kate.
Speaking of exposure, are you pleased with how your Yes Sir hashtag has taken off, and is the helicopter still undefeated?
The helicopter's still undefeated, and we might need to use it a little bit more, based on the way it's going. You would think something that started off as a convenience. Seriously, it started off as we were playing Florida. This was after the hurricane situation, and we were playing Florida that first game, and I was hesitant. I didn't want to miss practice on Thursday, and Sealy was playing St. Pius Thursday night on the ESPN game. And so we had, obviously, Ricky Seals-Jones and Cole Stewart playing in this game, and I didn't want to miss practice because it's our first game, and the only way we could get there and back, get there by the time the game started, was by helicopter. And the game was on ESPN. And I know you guys think that was premeditated. That was not premeditated. It was really, and then it turned into what it is now. So, you know, it's another thing we kind of fell into, and it's become, the only problem I have right now is that all the players want to know why I don't take the helicopter to their game. So they want to know, they think, you know, and yes, I did take it to Myles Garrett's game. So it was pretty important there too. But you know, it's a real recruiting tool, and particularly when you're trying to get to Dallas or Houston after practice. And anybody who's ever been on 290 on Friday night at 5:30, 6 o'clock knows it's impossible for me to go to practice and get to anywhere. I can't even get to the Sci schools by 6:30 if I left here at 5. So that's kind of it. What was the other one? You know, I don't know. It's just something that we use. You know, it's about it.
We'll go Scott, and then down front here. Time for a couple more.
Coach, you said that, you know, there may not be a lot of fifth-year seniors drafted, but as your program grows and you do have the ability to redshirt, those guys kind of get lost on signing day. But is that class of the guys that didn't play last year progressing how you want after you saw them in the bowl game practice?
I haven't seen them.
Since
I've been gone recruiting. Yeah. So we started school the 13th of January, and we've had signing date today. The really first time that I've really seen these guys was Monday, since it's the dead period, and we've gotten back into where we are. You know, Coach Jackson's got them. We're going to have spring football a little bit earlier this year. I think we start the 28th.
Yes, sir.
And,
February 28th.
yeah, and
February.
So we're rolling. We're 3 weeks out from starting football again. So I'll be able to answer your question a lot better at that point. We've been working on today's deal up until really this morning at 10 o'clock. So now we can move on to what we have here, and you know, like I said, we've got 3 weeks here, 3 or 4 weeks here that we'll do some things as coaches, you know, reevaluate what we've done, look at the direction that we're headed, offensively, defensively, and special teams. Maybe take a couple visits, have some people come here, and then we'll start practice that week before spring break. That Friday.
28th, yes.
28th.
February 28th, right here in the middle.
Coach, you were talking about your appeal out of state earlier about going in east in Louisiana and west in Arizona, but having the ability to get guys that like Alaka and Zakoven Henderson who were committed to Texas and then came here in state, how much is the appeal, and what does that say about where the program is now in Texas?
Well, you know, we've always been able to, you know, the first day we got here, we had a couple guys that we were able to get turned around, and you know, the first year I was here. So that's always going to happen. In this state, you know, there's a lot of really good players. Guys are committed to schools, and you know, over the course of time, you know, people keep recruiting them, and you know, I think that you know, the thing that was great about Zay was he was a mid-year guy, and a D lineman, which we needed, 315-pound interior D lineman, and you know, there's always going to be recruiting battles in this state for the really good players, and you know, hopefully you win more than you lose.
Okay, last one here, Brent.
When you show recruits Kyle Field and what it looks like now, and then show them pictures of what it's going to look like, what is their reaction at that?
Oh, the reaction's fabulous. I think, you know, I was talking earlier, you know, I've worked a lot of places where you had drawings and renderings, and you know, things never happened. You just parked bulldozer outside, said it's gonna come. Just trust me. With your your junior year. But you show the Kyle video, and when guys are here on their visit, you know, and they look out that window, and you go through the nutrition, RC Slocum Nutrition Center, they look out that window and go, wow, you know, that's really happening. And until you see that, I mean, you don't understand the magnitude of this project. You know, when you throw around the term $450 million, doesn't even seem real. You know, that's not tangible to a lot of people, let alone an 18-year-old. You know, and then when you look out there and you see what's going on now, they're like, wow, moms, dads, you know, prospective student athletes, it's kind of overwhelming. So, you know, and it's more than just that. You know, I had a former player, Jonathan Stewart, was here yesterday working out, and he walked in, and he said, I cannot believe in the last 2 years, you know, the Davis Center, this lobby, he goes, the nutrition center, and he looked out in the field, he goes, I can't believe it. I mean, he was just kind of walking around with his mouth open, looking around. And you know, you got to remember the lobby wasn't here, the nutrition center wasn't here when even Stu left. So the amount of commitment that our administration and our university has had to this program in the last 24 months has been spectacular. And besides the greatest stadium project in the history of college football. So, you know, a lot of people have taken notice to that, coaches, high school coaches, and prospects, and they understand the kind of commitment that the university has to this program, and I think it makes a huge difference when you go into homes and when you go into high schools, and people see that. Like I said, this is a combination of things, but walking up there and just looking at that stadium, it doesn't really hit them. The video is very powerful, but when you look out there, they just kind of stand there and go, whoa, that's something else. Are you sure you're going to be able to play there next year? That's my biggest question. And I say, I hope so right now, but it looks good to me.
All right, Coach. Thanks very much.
All right, thank you.